Hello, EKN Nation. Welcome to a new edition of our EKN Debrief. It's episode number 93, Wednesday, March the 9th, 2022. And again, almost got through the first quarter of the year. A ton of racing, as we all know, throughout the Winter Series, both on the East Coast and the West Coast. And one of the, I think, the most anticipated openers of the year, of course, the United States Pro Kart Series Southern Grand Prix, the event that took place at the Orlando Kart Center in Orlando, Florida, just last weekend. Big weekend for sure. Looking forward to diving into this one. My name's Rob Howden, joined, of course, by David Cole, who was trackside throughout the weekend. Before we dive into this edition of the Debrief, let's talk about the presenting sponsor for this week's show. Of course, Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, Tillet seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand at a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive-and-drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklin.com. All right, David Cole, following along throughout the weekend. I had a chance to watch some of the coverage on Kart Chaser. I rolled out and actually had to do some errands, so I was actually listening as well on the EKN radio network. Man, just a fantastic weekend for the USPKS Southern Grand Prix, opening round of the 10th season of this program, March 4th, 5th, and 6th, of course, the race date. Your first trip to Orlando Karting Center. Let's start with that. What did you think of the facility? I personally haven't been there either myself.
No, and I'll get a little more in depth in our paddock pass, but to begin with, it was the first time that the series went to Florida and it didn't rain. The weather was high 80s, sunny all weekend long. We had a little bit of wind on Sunday, but every year we went to Ocala, we had an occasional thunderstorm that came rolling through and kind of shook things up a little bit. So this was the first time USPKS was in Florida without any rain. So very unique for the program.
So you're there for 3 full days, out of the track, taking photos, doing your job. How burnt are you right now?
Luckily, I tried to stay in the shade as much as possible. So yeah, the neck's a little red. But thankfully, this is my 5th event in the sun.
Isn't that crazy?
So I got a pretty good base going right now, which is making a lot of my Michigan friends jealous.
Yeah, hold on. Take your shirt off.
Yeah, it still looks like I'm wearing a white T-shirt. We won't talk about that. You're
not going to the beach right now.
That was a discussion between me and Sean Burkle a little bit because his neck was pretty red too, and he wears pants, so his legs are whiter than a ghost. So
that's funny. So David, listen, let's jump into this the USPKS series. Obviously, a massive start to the season. Before we go to our first break, we'll jump into the by the numbers because record-setting numbers on the weekend. But overall, it's an 8-round championship, 4 weekends in total. I haven't got myself up to speed. Is there a double point weekend for the final weekend? How's it all shake down in terms of counting points for the championship?
No, each round is the same.
Okay.
There's no change in the way the point structure is. It's not like other programs that, increase the points. No, this is a straight up best 7 of 8 rounds. So 2 rounds per weekend, 4 weekends for the year. And, so some drivers, and we'll talk about that later, are probably going to count one of these as one of their drops if they can,
no doubt.
Moving forward, some championship contenders and other drivers as well too, some that didn't even make the main event and one of the 4 categories that had LCQ. So
amazing for sure. As David mentioned, gorgeous weather, high 80s and sunny all weekend, had that wind come in on Sunday. But again, David, let's go by the numbers. When we did our preview Outlet podcast, we talked about what the numbers could be. And there was so much momentum, so much chatter about this opening round of the USPKS, the different approach to, hey, this is what we're going to do in terms of numbers. The first 3 categories to fill up the 40 carts. We're going to open those 3 categories. The rest will lock in. I think that was a really, really good play because, notoriously the karting community likes to wait and wait and wait. Well, in this particular approach like that, you can't wait, man. If you want to come, you got to enter. Otherwise, you may not be part of the event. The FOMO is real. So let's have a look at the numbers, David, because 323 total entries, what you have down here. That is that's staggering. What a fantastic weekend for a class, for a series with 7 categories.
Yeah, 30 more than what we had in Ocala last year. We thought that was going to be the biggest. And then, the buildup, as you talked about, talking about limiting classes to only 40, help kind of amp things up moving along. And again, just the want to be part of this event. Again, numbers breed numbers, and it's continuing to get bigger and bigger. So it's a matter of, okay, now what is going to be the biggest race? I think this might be it for the year. I think it will be very similar to what we saw last year, because you have the state of Florida. A lot of those competitors like to just stay in Florida. So that kind of helps the numbers there. But GoPro will be close because, they have a lot of local racers as well, too. And a lot of East Coast drivers tend to travel to GoPro for the big events. So I think this is going to be the big one. I think this will be the big one of the year. I don't think we're going to see anything else quite like this in terms of numbers. But and then competitively, it was sound all the way around. I thought we were going to get more K100 seniors. We did have over 60 entered trackside, but a couple were canceled. So it dropped to 58 total. So we were too short of Ocala last year, which Ocala was just massive. And that actually instituted the whole split of having 2 different pre-finals. So that was kind of the format introduced for 4 of the categories this year, because we had Mini Swift go to 56. We had
massive.
X30 Pro go to 57. And then we also have K100 Junior that was split up. So we actually had 4 categories split up.
Well, and interesting, David. Obviously, 30 more entries, not drivers, so 30 more entries from Ocala last year to the opener at Orlando this year. But it's not like it was across the board. Like you said, dropping 2 less drivers in K100 Senior, 1 less driver in Junior, 5 less drivers in the Masters category. But the big growth, as you talked about, number one, 41 drivers up to 56 in Mini Swift. The cadet categories are awesome. A total of 96 drivers total in the cadet categories between micro and mini. Micro up 1, mini up 15. The X30 Pro class, what a jump that was, David. 18 drivers increase, 39 last year at the opener, 57 in total in X30 Pro. Crazy to think that the West Coast struggling to get any drivers running in the 125cc liquid-cooled air, single-speed categories. But en masse, everybody's running in the pro category over here in the East.
Well, if you look at the entry hometowns, there's a lot of West Coast guys that were in the X30 Pro division.
Interesting.
You talk about like Dante Yu, Ryan Vincent,
Frankie Mossman.
Frankie Mossman was another California driver. I want to say there was at least a dozen drivers from the West Coast that were in X30 Pro. So again,
numbers bring numbers, right? It's happening over here, so they're running it over here.
Exactly. So if they had 40 drivers here, almost 40 drivers at Ocala last year, that kind of brings the incentive for some of these drivers to make the trek from California to Florida for this event. And again, it's the opening round. Everything. It's a clean whiteboard. Nobody's the top guy. There's no championship points already. So this is kind of like, okay, let's go there. Let's see where we stand. Now it's a matter of, if the numbers continue into GoPro, as I said earlier.
Yeah, David brought that up. This race, of course, Orlando, the largest ever USPKS event, starting off the 10th edition of the program, 323 entries. All the events last year, over 250. We'll see how things shake down when they head to GoPro for the second event on that 4-event program. Stay with us, folks. When we get back, David had mentioned he's got more to talk about here in the Paddock Pass. Stick with us. We're going to be right back, folks. More to come here on this edition of the EKN Debrief. Winning takes top quality equipment, flawless preparation, experienced coaching, and passion. And at Team GFC, we live our passion. Developed by American karting champion Gary Carlton, the GFC chassis has become one of the newest brands to reach the top of the podium in North America. GFC has garnered victories and championships at all levels of the sport since its debut at the end of 2018. Shifter car drivers are at the front of the field in the GT14 frame, with the SS31 a consistent contender in tag and 100cc competition. Team GFC has a ride and drive packages available for all categories, including the mini and micro classes utilizing the GFC RR5 cadet chassis. These young pilots have the opportunity to be part of the Team GFC Young Driver Development Program. Learn from one of the best American karters with 28 years racing at the highest levels of the sport, offering personalized training on and off the track. Follow GFC Karting on Facebook and Instagram, or click over to gfckarting.com to learn more about joining Team GFC. GFC, live your passion. You can buy all the latest and greatest products on the market, but when you're karting to win, it boils down to one thing: you, the driver. Gain the knowledge and abilities by investing in yourself at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, and you'll find those extra tenths of a second you need to put yourself on the podium. The school was established by SuperKarts USA Hall of Fame driver Alan Rudolph, with decades of victories and championships in multiple forms of the sport, including other disciplines of racing. The Alan Rudolph Racing Academy, located at the Speed Sports Racing Park in the metropolitan Houston area, is designed to teach driving skills at all levels. The instructors of the Academy have decades of racing experience and educating drivers of all ages. Classes at the Academy will teach the concepts and skills needed both behind the wheel and off the track. From the beginning kart racing experience and intro to karting courses, to their advanced 1-day and 2-day courses and karting clinics, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can improve the skills of any driver. For more information on the specific programs that the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy can provide for you, head to speedsports.com and click on the Racing Academy page. Be sure to follow the Academy on social media by searching for Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Welcome back to episode 93 of our Debrief podcast, where we take a deep dive into the event that we were at with the Trackside Live program. David, of course, was at the United States Pro Kart Series Southern Grand Prix, the opening round of the USPKS for 2022. Orlando Kart Center, holding their first USPKS event. David, let's jump now into the Paddock Pass. This one brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. History, success, family. These are three words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis and has provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers in the near 6 decades of business. Their online store features everything you need, and they are continually adding new parts to their product line. Make sure you head over to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be part of the Comet Kart Sales family today. All right, David, Paddock Pass. And again, for those of you new to the podcast, this is not the race report. We're not talking about what happened, the wheel-to-wheel racing. It's not, it's not other stuff. This is more David being trackside, what happened in the paddock, chatting with people, what happened in the event overall.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned it earlier. It was our first visit, the series' first visit to the Orlando Kart Center. So it was kind of introduction. And Andre Martins, the owner of Orlando Kart Center, has been really focused on building that the rental program. He's got a really good rental program there too. But he hosts a lot of racing as well. And so it was unique to go there. Again, it basically began, if I recall, as just a parking lot. It's situated alongside what used to be a drag strip. Now the drag strip is actually a salvage yard for broken and beat up cars. So it's a little bit of eyesore to the west, but thankfully you don't really pay attention to that too much. But it made me feel like old school South Garda, where the paddock is so tight because, again, we had record numbers. So that was really the big question going in, was how we were going to fit everybody in there. And that's kind of been the the movement because the numbers are so large. Well, we
can
only go.
I want to come back to that. Keep going. Yeah.
we can only go to places that can hold us. Well, when they announced Orlando Kart Center, that was a big scare. Really, it was a scare. It was how are we going to get everybody in there? Well, they fit us all in there like sardines, and it reminded me of the really narrow lanes. Like again, old school South Garda, not the newer South Garda, because they've done a lot of stuff to it. But it reminded me of that. There's very narrow pathways to get through to where you need to go. Yeah, if there would have been a fire, it would not have been good. Sorry,
no fire lanes, fire lanes, right?
I mean, there are fire lanes, but they, again, it was maybe big enough to get a car through.
David, did they pinch down on some of the hospitality areas, or was everybody set up like they normally are, and they just did they just tighten up the actual travel ways?
Yeah, a majority of everybody had their setups pretty much the same as they typically do. Right. Trinity had their space, Speed Concepts, Ryan Perry Motorsport, PSL Karting, Rollison, all those are sponsors. They all had their normal setup. Mike Doty Racing still had the circus-sized tent. It was, fairly large. So everybody fit. It was, it was making sure those that had the smaller trailers or pitted with easy ups, were a little bit smushed together, a little bit closer than normal. Okay. But again, you couldn't bring vehicles in. So it was, you had to walk. They used the nearby gravel pit as parking. So everybody's car and the paddock itself was just covered in dust all weekend long. So that was one. That was one negative part of it. It was, right. It was not clean because of all the dust. Allergies and sinuses were going haywire all weekend long. So
yeah, all right, okay.
That's a kind of a downside to it, but it is closer to the airport. So you don't have to make that 1.5-hour trip to Ocala like we used to.
Yeah.
And overall, I think that the racetrack raced well. It's just a matter of, it kind of reminds me of a lot of the temporary circuits that are being built with the back and forth. Yeah. You got a right turn, left turn, right turn, left turn. And it had a really long straightaway. And the hairpins were obviously, a factor throughout the weekend, but also where they have pavement inside the curbing. Again, guys using up more curbing than they should, talking about, some people are cutting the corner, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a little bit, questionable, but again, he built that place as a rental kart track. Some of the problems that we see at, say, GoPro Motorplex, where they, they have the extra runoff, or, like I just said, the curbing, it's paved inside the curbing rather than being grass or this and that. So it's a little, one of the biggest problems throughout the weekend, though, I don't think I've ever seen this before anywhere, was the track eating up the battery brackets, like literally destroying the brackets holding the battery onto the chassis and ripping them completely off, and the battery would go flying.
What? How that happen?
It's hitting the curbs. Everybody talked about, how hitting the curbs at Homestead were so rough. Well, this Orlando Kart Center is a battery killer. It literally is. I think we saw at least 5 or 6 batteries destroyed, and if not many, many more that were ripped off their cart. Wow. And then guys were coming in, underweight.
David? Was it in that, like, before you do the big left-hand sweeper coming back to the checkered flag setup? Was it that right left where you're like they were just pounding the curb through that left right combination?
No, it's the S's. It's the S's that take you to the left-hander that leads on to the start-finish lane.
That's what I'm talking about. The final left-hand sweeper kind of around the left-hander, that you come through the S's there, right? It's the little left-right S's where they hammered that second.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Before the inner sweeper, yeah.
Exactly, right. Yeah. They hammered, the way that they were hammering that second curb was crazy.
Well, it's hitting the first curb and coming down so hard that, the left side of the cart gets put up into the air and it comes slamming down, and then it hits the right curb, so it adds even more stress on the left side of the chassis.
Yep.
So it's and then even in turn I guess it would be turn 3, the really quick left-hander after the double rights after the start finish line. The curb there is very, very sharp, and was grabbing. I saw literally a battery disintegrated there
Wow.
on the sideline.
All
So
right.
it's just, again, it was a battery killer. People weren't complaining about being sore, roughed up. So I guess that has something over the Homestead curbing that we used to have, but again, it's a back and right, or back, left and right, left, right, it back and forth type of racetrack. So very unique, but there really weren't too many complaints about the racetrack itself.
Well, that's interesting. What else you got from the Paddock Pass?
Well, one of the key aspects going forward with the United States Pro Kart Series is a little bit of a change up again with the staffing and the race direction for the program. I wasn't aware of this, but it was announced during the drivers' meeting on Friday that longtime race director Jason Lugwood would be calling his last race. This would be it for him.
Okay.
The Quincy, Illinois native, longtime veteran in the sport, has decided to step away and kind of focus on his own stuff and stay away from the race director side of karting, and maybe get back to being a wrench or just enjoying the sport, at the club and regional level. So
he's not the first guy that's been chased away or decided to leave the worst job in karting, right?
And again, that's really what it boils down to. He's talking to him, it's just personally, he was letting it get to him a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And, again, that's something that you can't take home with you and have to deal with on a Wednesday after a race weekend. It really shouldn't be. And unfortunately, that's the bad side of our sport, where people do not have the common courtesy or the politeness or the respect that they should be given. And unfortunately, those few bad apples kind of tend to ruin things for the rest of us. And really, it's ruining it, because Jason is probably one of the best race directors that we had out there.
Yeah, you hate to see that, right? That a couple of bad apples will sour that milk and really change someone's experience, because that role as the race director, as we know, it's such a tough role. It's almost like you can't win. You make one call, somebody else is pissed off. You make this call, the other side's pissed off, and it's just such a tough role. And again, I heard nothing but great things about Jason Ludwig's performances as a race director, and was probably, obviously, David, I think part of the growth and success of the USPKS is what he brought to the table, right?
He certainly was. He was the calm, collective, race director that would talk to you politely and respectfully, and again, try and make sure the correct call was made and go the extra mile to make sure, things were looked at properly and done in the proper manner. And, people, I guess, some people took advantage of that. And unfortunately, that's the downside of being the race director.
So talk about additional staff as well for this particular weekend at the USPKS. I know that Tim Coy, and I watched something on social media where he was actually going to be the new kind of video review staff member for the pushback bumper. Obviously, if you had a pushback bumper penalty, you could pay a certain amount once. You could do it one time on the weekend. If you were unsuccessful, if you were successful, you can come back and do it again. But how things go with the pushback bumper video review program?
Well, it's very similar to like what we have in the NFL with the challenge flag.
Okay. Yeah.
So think about it that way. It's an easier, scenario where you can challenge this pushback bumper. If you win it, you can continue to challenge later. If you don't, that's it. You're done. That's your one challenge. You're not allowed to challenge again. So it puts a little bit of, thought into the competitor's mind of, okay, do I have enough proof in my video to show that my pushback bumper was not during avoidable contact or something that would be deemed a penalty?
Yeah.
Because if it was, then the pushback bumper penalty would not be overturned. So that was that was new, because they used to do that for just the finals. Now they're doing it for pre-finals and finals, and that was again, that's something that the series is learning to adapt to, and something Tim Coyne was kind of thrown at right away and needed the assistance of the other race directors, because there were so many of the penalties trying to be overturned. So it could be something, maybe they hire somebody down the line to be that person only. We'll have to see how they address that moving forward. But talking to people in the paddock, it was a great move because everybody knows pushback bumper doesn't necessarily mean you caused an incident or you deserve a penalty, whether it be, bottleneck at the start or somebody spun out in front of you and you slammed right into the side of them because you had nowhere to go.
Yep.
Certain situations, doesn't mean the pushback bumper deems a penalty. So there was a lot of positive talk about that. Unfortunately, it does require a lot more assistance from the staff to be able to to review all of these videos and to be able to make that call on different situations because everyone's not the same. They're all different. Aside from that, with Jason stepping away, they've brought in some new and familiar people as race directors or assistant race directors. Jason Dietrich is actually, I think, going to be the head race director moving forward. He's a OVRP guy. He's been with a number of different programs, does a lot of racing. Actually working on an article with him because he's doing a 50 for 50. He's trying to go karting in all 50 states, or at least be part of karting somehow in all 50 states. So that's an article I'm actually working on him with right now.
Nice. I like it.
David Coates and Alec Coates, we've seen them at SCUSA. We've seen them at STARS program as well. They were there providing assistant race directing. And Bobby Radovoy was still head flagman, so that's going to be his role as well, too. I'm trying to think of who else was the other one. Oh, Blake Hunt, and a racer and somewhat race director at GoPro. And then what's the other one? Adam Kreppen. Adam Kreppen is the other eyes on the track as well, too. So
interesting. There it is, folks. That is the Paddock Pass brought to you by Comet Kart Sales. And we get back after this break. It's time to jump into the race report. We'll start with X30 Pro and KA100 Senior. Don't go anywhere. Time to start talking about the racing from the USPCAS opener in Orlando. In karting, it's important to be supported by the right people. With over 40 years of experience in the sport, Trinity Karting Group has everything you need to make your program successful. We do it all, and we do it right. Trackside support and arrive and drive programs at many of karting's biggest East Coast events, full product sales and service, and professional coaching from our experienced staff. Trinity Karting Group is a full-service operation based at the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, which gives us access to our custom-designed driver training facility. This allows us to offer private one-on-one coaching to take you to the next level. From arrive and drive and coaching programs to the parts you need, let Trinity Karting Group provide you with customer service and a racing experience second to none. Trinity Karting Group is an official Kart Republic race team, providing full trackside support at all the major USA karting events, including the SCUSA Pro Tour, United States Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Super Nationals 25, and other events throughout the 2022 season. TKG has in stock Kart Republic, IAME, MG and Avinco tires, and more products for those in Ohio and the Midwest region. Trinity Karting Group has a long history of the sport, a winning pedigree, and we're dedicated to driver development. We take pride in our professional approach and our positive attitude. Let us build a custom race program for you. Give us a call at 513-421-4463 or check us out online at trinitykartinggroup.com. Cometic Gasket is a leading worldwide supplier of gaskets and engine sealing solutions for karting, automotive performance, power sports, original equipment, and the remanufactured engine industries. Cometic karting gaskets are available as OE replacement top-end kits or as individual gaskets and seals. Just like competitive karters, Cometic can operate on the fly and has the unique capability to customize any gasket to meet specific engine requirements and clearances. All of Cometic's fiber materials are asbestos-free and do not require any additional sealants. Viton oil ring cylinder head seals are used in each 2-cycle kit, and Cometic's 4-cycle engine kits feature only the most advanced multi-layer steel head gaskets. Cometic can tailor to engine builder-specific needs through bulk ordering and packaging flexibility. Kinetic gaskets are must-haves for championship-winning teams across multiple disciplines of both professional and amateur motorsports. Kinetic gasket, sealing championships since 1989. Welcome back to episode 93 of the EKN Debrief. Rob Howden alongside David Cole. Although I'm just kind of quarterbacking things here, David was trackside by himself, as he was at the Challenge of the Americas race late February. So he's doing all the heavy lifting here. I'm just kind of.
It's common for 2022, isn't it?
Dude, you've had a lot of races already. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Well, I meant me and you aren't going to be together at a lot of races moving forward.
No, we actually won't be. Like literally, we go to COTA together. And then you're on holidays for winter nationals. I won't be at the spring nationals. And we probably won't see each other again until August. That's funny. Or late July for the summer nats. That's interesting. Right. Interesting. It's a different season for sure. Time to jump into the race report presented by CRG Nordam. CRG is one of the most iconic brands in karting, and they're primed and ready with new material and a never-ending focus on winning. CRG Nordam is the North American distributor for all CRG products. Based outside of Houston, Texas, CRG Nordam supports CRG dealers across the continent, reaching every corner of North America. Check out the new CRG KT5 for tag and shifter racing, the Black Mirror for cadet competition, and the FS4 for Briggs 206 racing. Longtime CRG drivers will be happy to know that the CRG Road Rebel, the standard in quality and performance, is still available. For more information on the CRG product line, head to www.kartcrg.com. And to inquire about a North American dealer near you, please email us at info@kartcrg-nordam.com. All right, David, let's jump into it. Those of you, again, new to our Debrief podcast, I'll blast out the headline. David can fill in the rest from what he did this past weekend. Here's the headline for X30 Pro. Norberg doubles to begin title defense.
It was a near perfect weekend for the defending champion as he only missed out in Saturday qualifying. That's something I didn't talk about in the Paddock Pass, was the new format schedule where both days of qualifying was held Friday afternoon, and they actually qualified Sunday first, and then they moved into Saturday so they didn't have to change back to different tires if they're utilizing the same set of rims for both Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
So Sunday was the first qualifying session, and Norberg actually qualified first in that session, but it was actually his teammate Paul Bocuse who beat him out for fast time in the Saturday session, which wrapped up the action for Friday qualifying. Moved into the pre-final where they split up the X30 Pro division into two. Norberg was able to hold to jump up to the number one spot in that race with Alessandro Di Tullo in the even pre-final, winning that race to put those two drivers on the front row. An early challenge by Alessandro kind of caught Norberg off guard. And from that moment on, Norberg kind of put in the afterburners and was able to lay down super fast laps of the race, able to be at least 1/10 of a second quicker than anybody else in the field. Once he established a little bit of a gap, he was in cruise control mode and was able to drive away to a 1.5 second victory at his home racetrack, with Alessandro finishing in the second spot. So behind them was a good battle for third. It ended up being Paul Bocuse in the third spot to land on the podium, with fellow RPG driver Nate Cicero in fourth and Aaron Benoit in the fifth position.
Benoit.
I know. I already say it.
You really should just type it out phonetically.
I should just say the wrestler, Aaron Benoit.
Whatever it is, just type it out phonetically.
Benoit, yeah.
Benoit. Hard charger in the race was Cameron Weinberg, up 14 spots. Started 21st in the main event, up to 7th after a pushback bumper penalty in the final. But David, really out of the gate, probably be in the pre-final. Out of the gate, for Norberg, again, leveraging the home track. He knows Orlando Kart Center very well. Wins the championship last year, his first after, the domination by Brandon Jarsekrak for so many years. For, a big debut for Norberg. And obviously, it paved the way for the rest of the weekend. But to be able to get out of the gate, start things off in what was an absolutely stacked field of drivers, that win for both Norberg and Rawlson Performance Group was huge on Saturday.
Yeah, but it did show a little bit of weakness, and I think
Ooh,
that's what
do
the
tell.
competitors noticed was how he wasn't as quick early on in the races. So
Okay.
that was kind of the goal. They even did that in the pre-final. They kind of went after him Sunday a little bit in the pre-final. He dropped to third, was able to get himself back up to the front and score the win in the pre-final odd race. In the even race, it was Benoit and Thomas Naveau, the Canadian, that was going back and forth. Ended up being Naveau scoring the victory in that one. So he was alongside Norberg on the front row for the main event. And again, in the main event, they attacked quickly. That was kind of the plan, I think, by everybody, was to go after Norberg and go after him quickly.
Makes sense.
He actually dropped down to the fourth spot, but was back up into lead by lap number 5. And then from there was able to put down, again, pretty consistent and fast laps to be able to establish a gap. It wasn't much. Alessandro Di Tullio was able to get up into second and keep him in sight, but was never close enough to make a chance to battle. And it was a close finish. Probably about 1 second, as Norberg was able to score the victory over Alessandro. But Alessandro actually had a pushback bumper, so he lost 3 seconds, which made the margin of victory 4 seconds in the final tally.
Copy that. DeTullio was second, but David, let's talk about the last lap battle for P3.
And that's exactly it. That was kind of the Benoit was kind of frustrated. He was sitting there in third, hoping, and I think he knew Alessandro had a pushback. So he's kind of just sitting there buying his time, hoping to be within that 3 second gap to be able to move up into the second spot without having to make a pass on track. Unfortunately for him, Marjan Kremers was right there on his bumper making a late charge, and those two went at it on the final circuit for the third position. Kremers was able to get him for the spot, and as they crossed the line, it was not enough to be able to move ahead of Alessandro with the pushback bumper penalty. So they ended up finishing third, Benoit in fourth, and then Thomas Naveau in the fifth position.
Interesting, only 3 drivers in the top 5 in both races: Norberg, DeTullio, and Benoit. Hard charger AJ Myers on the Magic Kart, 11 spots up, 27th the starting position in the main event, up to 16th in the final. David, any indication of what happened to Myers to be 27th in the pre-final?
Yeah, beating around. The single speed guys did not like shifter kart drivers in X30 Pro or K100 Senior all weekend long. So that was, Myers was battling contact. I think he did, I want to say maybe a top 10 finish on Saturday. But you said those 3 drivers in the top 5 both days. Common thread, both Florida drivers. Or all three
Florida drivers. You're right. Yeah, again, local track knowledge. Now, you talk a little bit about guys getting beaten up a bit, and we'll get to this when we wrap things up with you give us our final thoughts. But man, a lot of stuff I read on social media, David, people were not happy. They were fine with USPKS, but not happy at all with just the overall respect and racecraft out there. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. Let's go to KA100 Senior. David, here's your headline: Lemke and Stanfield escape chaos with victories.
Yeah, it was KA100 Senior that was the most chaotic category of the weekend, and really the only one where we did not see any type of respect out front, mid-pack, anywhere throughout the weekend. Saturday qualifying session, Jeremy Fletcher was able to set fast time after Brandon Lemke had set fast time for Sunday's action. So it kind of shook things up a little bit in that terms, as Fletcher was able to score the victory in the pre-final odd, with Lemke scoring the win in pre-final even to fill up the front row. The main event was essentially Fletcher, Lemke, and Terlecki out front. They were kind of running nose to tail here and there, battled a little bit, kind of swapped spots. Even Lemke and Terlecki both drivers on the Merlin, both drivers driving for Merlin Nation, did not want to work together, which seemed odd because there was 3 of them and they were the only 2 teammates running out front. So that allowed Alex Dancho and James Bird to kind of keep a close gap to the top 3, as they were having a pretty good performance, both of them themselves. Late in the race, though, Lemke was able to escape both Fletcher and Terlecki and drive away to a 2.6 margin of victory, as Terlecki and Fletcher were fighting for the second position, with Terlecki earning that spot. Alex Doncho finishing up in fourth. James Bird was part of it, but was dropped further down the order on the final circuit. That allowed Alex Stanfield to move up into the fifth position.
Indeed, let's have a look at the hard charger, Nikita Panaris on the Lando Norris LN Kart. David, 21 spot improvement had to come through the LCQ to get into it. To start 38th, ends up 17th. If you go into the LCQ, you end up 17th in that grid, front half of the grid. That's a decent day.
Yeah, another one tied with 21 spots as well, too. And I forgot to mark this down. Finnegan Bailiff, he was actually among the top finishers in the pre-final, but was disqualified for weight. I think he lost his battery. And so he actually had to go up through the LCQ as well. Finished in would have been the third spot. Yeah, third spot in the LCQ. And so he also advanced up 21 positions to 18th, so right behind Nikita.
All right, KA100 Senior, let's move to the Sunday action right now. Lemke picked up where he left off, David, and qualified P1.
Well, yeah, he qualified P1 to begin with on Friday, and then carried that P1 into a pre-final win. Chase Hand came up and scored the win in the pre-final even, in a pretty good race for the race win in that one. Sunday main event, a little bit of chaos. Early contact between Liberante and Lemke kind of boiled over from the pre-final, where Lemke gave Liberante a little bit of a bump and run, and a call was made by the officials. Liberante took a little bit into his own hands and put Lemke, squeezed him off into the wall on the outside of what is turn number, I guess, 4. It's a left-hander. And again, it has those. That's the one thing I didn't talk about with the Orlando Kart Center. They have these walls that he says are FIA approved, but I don't see them anywhere around an FIA karting circuit around the world. But they're used mainly for the rental karts to keep them involved. And they look like indoor walls, really is what they look like. And unfortunately, when you hit them, they do not give like a Tech Pro or Scribner barrier or anything like that. So it causes a pretty good shunt if you do hit them. I don't think Lemke hit it as much as they made contact, the two of them. Either way, Liberante hit his left side and essentially drove over the left side of his cart, and in the process ripped the battery completely off of Lemke's cart. We thought Lemke was injured. Turned out to be he grabbed his battery and put it in his lap and was actually driving the rest of the way. I think this happened on lap, let me see where it is. I think lap 4. It might have been even lap 2. Let me see here. Lap number 2. Happened on lap number 2 of a 18-lap race.
Wow.
So the contact happened on lap number 2. Lemke looked down, saw the battery drag, and quickly grabbed it, put it in his lap, and held it and drove with his right hand the entire distance. Now think about that. Most of the turns are right hand. So he's driving with his inside hand through majority of the corners around this racetrack, and was actually passing people. He fell all the way back to 13th at one point, made his way up to the 10th spot, and continued to pass people late in the race.
And didn't he make an outside pass in one of the corners as well?
Well, again, there's guys going back and forth, so I don't know if it was necessarily a complete, Cole Trickle kind of move, but
you can't hold it.
But just the fact that Lemke drove better one-handed than a majority of the field did with two hands just kind of goes to show the type of talent that Lemke does hold.
Agreed.
So anyway, that contact kind of shuffled up the field. Stanfield ended up jumping out to the lead and led a majority of the race with Fletcher and Liberante right there. They're fighting with 5 laps to go, brought in a host of others that, again, brought on a little bit more contact. As they were coming to the white flag, Fletcher and Liberante made some contact. I think Liberante drove over the left side of Fletcher as they were all shuffling for position. This allowed a host of drivers to get through. And as they were, and one of them was Chase Hand. Chase Hand came out of that corner with the lead, took the white flag as the leader, and then somehow him and Finnegan Bailiff made contact that sent Hand screaming to the left of the racetrack. Thankfully, he didn't hit a wall. He continued to spin and kept going, but the lead was gone. And now it was Bailiff and Stanfield out front and fighting for the win. Stanfield was able to work past Bailiff with the last few corners and was able to reach the checkered flag first. Originally, and this is, I'll give you the unofficial order first. So we had Stanfield ahead of Bailiff. Liberante came through with the third position ahead of Connor Ferris, with Benoit in the fifth position. That was the provisional top five.
Yep.
Well, Bailiff got a penalty for the contact with Hand after the white flag, so he fell down the order. Liberante was actually disqualified for fuel, not to mention, I believe, contact penalty as well. But the fuel obviously took him out of the results as well. That moved Ferris up to the second spot, moved Benoit up to the third. Lemke now, who made a pass from ninth to fifth, was moved up to fourth, and then moved Gia Cicero with RPG into the fifth position.
As David unfolds and gives us all the information on the chaos. Wow. And I remember watching it, it was pretty much the same thing. It was, wow. I was just shaking my head the whole time. Crazy. Big win for Stanfield, though, getting that victory there. Hard charger Aaron Benoit. You mentioned that he ends up third, started 25th in the race, so up 22 spots with all the penalties that happened all in all. David, obviously you were there. I've seen the video that you have trackside of Liberante chatting with Fletcher. What was just to cap this section off here for KA100 Senior, what was the vibe like in the scale line after that much chaos, that much contact? It was, what was the feel?
Well, there were people pissed off at this person, and then that person was apologizing to another person. That's essentially kind of what it was. Some people were apologizing to one person, but then they were getting yelled at by another person, and it was just kind of a big circle of frustration amongst the drivers. Because again, you go from X30 Pro, where guys were passing with respect. They would make a dive bomb move, but would show a little bit of respect. Here, there was no respect whatsoever. And it just boils down to the way KA100 is, and nobody gets off the gas. It's that speed. There's not that difference of speed. Everybody's so tight. It's so close racing. I don't know. I kind of compare it to the Briggs stuff where guys, are flat out. They never get off the gas. They hardly brake, and they just, they use the cart to turn, or they use somebody else to make the turn even better.
Yeah, that's it. Right?
And that's else. That's what it's starting to boil down to. And again, the bumpers aren't helping. It's so funny. You look at all the bumpers in that chaotic race on Sunday, and I want to say there was maybe one pushback out of the top 10.
Yes.
They're all smushed, they're all crushed in, but they're not getting pushed back. If so
I hear what you're saying.
But a lot of the contact too is side by side. The stuff
side.
between Lemke and Liberante was side by side. Lemke was on the outside, Liberante was on the inside, and continued to push him out wide. That's what boiled that contact. The contact between Liberante and Fletcher. I think Fletcher just got bottled up, and Liberante had nowhere to go and kind of ran over him. So I don't think that, that necessarily wasn't deliberate. That was just kind of everybody going for the same piece of real estate with, 5-6 carts all together. But again, overall, it's just, Jake French getting blasted in the pre-final on Saturday for no reason. You're lap 3 of the pre-final, and guys are racing like it's the last lap. It's like settle into a groove, Again, Lemke passed guys with one arm. That's what sticks out for me right now.
Yeah.
If you're talented enough to get by people, you're going to do that. Otherwise, guys are driving too dirty. That's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, we'll touch on it again when we wrap things up. But that seems to be kind of the one of the topics of this particular weekend. Not only obviously fantastic turnout, great event, but the bottom line, especially in this KA 100 senior class, the lack of respect really has people riled up. Folks, another quick break. When we get back, X30 Junior, KA 100 Junior, and X30 Masters, all on this edition of the Race Report, brought to you by CRG Nordam. This is episode number 93 of the EKN Debrief, taking a deep dive into the opening round of the USPKS. Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer to winning in karting. At the helm is industry veteran Greg Bell, who has orchestrated the success of many drivers dating back to the mid-1990s. Based in Lodi, California, Leading Edge Motorsports is the Western importer with IP karting that includes the Praga and Formula K chassis brands. Leading Edge Motorsports provides in-depth driver development for those racers in Northern California and across the country. Arrive and drive services, kart preparation, and driver coaching are available under the LEM tent throughout the season. Bell's record of working with drivers includes recent victories at North America's biggest karting events, including the Rock the Rio and the SCUSA Super Nationals. Greg Bell's knowledge for building engines spans 2 decades and is now under the Mega Power branding, providing a reliable engine service and tuning knowledge. No matter the chassis brand, choose Mega Power to get to the front. Click over to leadingedgemotorsports.com for more and find them on social media to stay connected. At Leading Edge Motorsports, winning never gets old. Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and the safety gear you need to get you on the track. Visit shopakr.com for a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors of the sport to ensure all the latest equipment is available to you, the racer. With over 20 years in business and customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price when you need them. Be sure to visit shopakr.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Make sure to follow Acceleration Kart Racing on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials and new arrivals. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. Rob Howden alongside David Cole, who was trackside throughout the weekend down in Orlando for the opening rounds of this year's United States Pro Kart Series. We're rolling into the middle of our race report here on this edition of the Debrief. Of course, this edition of that race report brought to you by CRG Nordam. David, let's jump into X30 Junior. We'll do the juniors and the masters here. The headline for X30 Junior, Gafera and Ingrata split chess match on the weekend.
Yeah, it was a 2-driver fight all weekend long. Caleb Gafera and Aiden Ingrata going toe-to-toe pretty much pre-final and final all race long. Saturday, Gafera was the top driver in qualifying and pre-final and pretty much led the majority of the main event. Ingrata was able to make a late move into the hairpin leading on to the long back straightaway. As they went down on the final lap to the end of the straightaway where there's another hairpin, Ingrata went to a defensive mode. Gafera held back just a little bit on the outside. As soon as Ingrata moved back to the outside to set up for the hairpin, that's when Gafera made the move to the inside, was able to capitalize by reaching the apex first, and that was the move for the race win, as Gafera was able to hold him off in the final few corners to score the victory in the main event.
Leonardo Scorpioni on the Tony Kart ends up in 3rd spot, Max Garcia in 4th, and Christian Miles rounding out the top 5. Hard charger David Julian DaCosta on a Tony Kart up 19 spots. Started at the tail of the field in 40th, but ended up 21st.
Yeah, it was actually Garcia that was quick time on Saturday. Sorry, I forgot. I messed that up. Both start with the G. I thought it was the same
No
name. Because Saturday was the second qualifying session. Then that was actually the only session that Caleb Gafera was not. See, I got that. I think I wrote that wrong. I think Gafera was top qualifier both days. Or I don't know.
You keep talking. I'll go look. How's that sound?
I'm pretty sure it was Garcia that was the top qualifier on Saturday, but for Sunday, the opening set, again, they go Sunday to Saturday, so it's throwing me off there. Garfera was the top qualifier for Sunday's event, but Ingrata overnight was able to find a little bit more pace, especially in the pre-final, with Garfera trailing. Then in the main event, Ingrata led a majority of the race, so he was the guy that was setting the pace throughout the race. But Garfera made a late charge. Last lap, was able to take the lead on the final circuit. I want to say in the early portion of the lap, but Ingrata was able to get a good run down the straightaway, and was able to get around Garfera before the corner, and then was able to hold him off with a drag race to the line to score the victory for the Sunday main event.
Yeah, all the main events that I watched, tough one, right? You go down that back straightaway. If you defend to the inside, you're going to push wide on the exit. Pretty classic over-under, then the run back to the S's. But if you don't defend, then the guy's going to make the move to the inside coming in there. A lot of passes were made there, as David said. Scorpione, another podium finish for Leonardo. Well done. Garcia ends up in fourth once again. This time, Teddy Musella, the Rawlson Performance Group driver, has really turned things up here throughout the start of 2022, rounding up the top five. Aiden Lorenko on the FA Kart, David. Hard chargers, 18 spots, started 42nd, worked his way up to 24th.
Yeah, again, the X30 junior class put on a good race. There was not a lot of chaos, not that I recall whatsoever. So overall, a great weekend for that category.
Let's go to KA 100 Junior, and here's the headline. Garcia and Miller earned first victories at USPKS.
Yeah, for Garcia, it was his first weekend aboard the KA 100 Junior package at USPKS. He's done some local and regional racing with the engine package, now into his second season in the junior ranks. But as I mentioned earlier, Caleb Garfera was among the top qualifiers on Friday, and he picked up both fast times for both sessions in KA 100 Junior. And that set him up with the pole position for the odd pre-final, where he went on to win with the second quickest driver in qualifying, Elio Meza, scoring the win in the even pre-final, which set up a great two-driver battle in the main event. Garfera led the first 17 laps with Elio Meza right there on his rear bumper. Ended up being a last lap showdown between the two. As they were exiting the hairpin at the end of the long straightaway, the two made contact as they looked like, to me, going for both same piece of real estate, where Meza was trying to pull the over-under and Caleb was trying to pull the shallow exit rather than going all the way out. Anyway, the two made contact. Meza was spun around and was unable to continue, while Garfera continued on and was able to cross the line first as the provisional winner. However, officials penalized him down to finish behind Meza, which ended up putting Garfera into the 34th position. That promoted Max Garcia to the top of the podium.
Yeah, obviously I watched it on Kart Chaser. I was quite surprised that they penalized Garfera for that one. It seemed to me, same as you just said, kind of just side-by-side contact coming out of the corner, two different angles to the line, obviously over-under for Elio Meza. So, he's going to push wide on the exit with that entry, and Garfera trying to pinch him off. I was a bit of a surprise there, but again, Garcia. Go.
No, go ahead.
I was going into the top five. So,
yeah, you know what it reminded me of?
What's that?
Super Nationals. Meza had the same situation with Carson Morgan in the KA 100 Junior main event. The last lap, they were both going for the same piece of real estate, and Meza hit the wall and was out of the race. So this time there was no wall. This time Meza and Garfera made contact, and Meza climbed up onto Caleb's cart and spun around. So
yeah, odd call for me.
It's a tough, again, talking to the officials, they said it was side by side, and Garfera moved over onto him. So again, if he's the leader, he has the right to go where he wants to go as the leader.
Well, to a certain extent, you can't just drive over the driver. But to me, just me watching it, it didn't look like you're coming out of the corner, moving over a little bit. It's just that, to me, that's side by side. That's just contact, right? You're racing hard for the race win. contact.
And that's where, again, it's being a race director. It's a tough role,
Unforgiving.
because sometimes you have to turn your head on that last lap. Guys are just going for the same piece of real estate. Now, it wasn't deliberate, I'm going to take you out move, but it's contact. Sometimes contact does happen in racing, and that's something, we always have to find the right mixture of
the balance. Yeah.
the balance.
And it's coming to an agreement of what, is a bump and run okay? Because you talked about a couple of bump and runs have been all right. In my mind, if a guy is blocking me on the final lap, or if I'm blocking on the final lap to try to get the win, I'm ready for the bump, right? If I'm blocking 100% block, I'm going to get tapped in the back. Of course, I'm ready for that. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to get around the corner to the exit in time. That's okay with me, as long as it's a classy bump and run that doesn't push back the bumper, right?
And that's the hard part, because different programs see things differently than other programs. We don't have a standardized way of looking at it through as a race director.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. Yeah, because you look at the Super Nationals, I think it was Gaffera actually that did the bump and run on, I think it was Fletcher. Might have been the last chance qualifier, or whatever race it was, bump and run.
A heat race, yeah.
In turn number 2, they penalized him for the bump and run. And then, the contact here, Gaffera gets the short end of the stick on this one. And again, of course, Meza did as well, as Meza fell to the tail of the field, and they put Gaffera behind Meza, right? That was kind of the crux of the penalty, moving Gaffera behind Elliott.
Yes, that's exactly what it was, yep.
That's what I figured. All right, well, that's the first race. Let's go to the second one, because obviously Gaffera disappointed with not getting the win. Garcia, let's go back. Garcia does get the victory with the penalty. Parker DeLong ends up in second, and Cooper Shipman rounding out the top 3. Landon Skinner in the 4th spot, and Lucas Szabo capping off the top 5. Gaffera didn't let him affect him. David came right back out of the gate, qualified on Sunday, had already qualified on the pole, but then was right back into the fight again throughout the day. Although it looked like Cooper Shipman and Elio Meza getting the pre-final wins.
Yeah, Shipman was able to come through with had that momentum of being on the podium Saturday, came through in Sunday morning with the pre-final win. So he was able to beat out Caleb in that race. When we got to the main event, Gaffera was, a little bit back because of, I think he started from row 3 or row 4 because of the pre-final result, was able to jump up to the lead late after getting shuffled down to 7th at the start. Had a last lap defensive line going onto the straight. Unfortunately, just did not have the momentum to carry it down the straightaway. And that allowed Meza and Stephen Miller to both get by. And then as they came through the final couple of corners, Miller and Meza went side by side. And it was essentially a drag race down to the line, with Stephen Miller able to score the victory over Meza by 83 thousandths of a second.
Wow.
And it was actually a good bounce back for Miller, who was running 5th on Saturday until the last lap, when his throttle cable had just broken as he was coming up to the line.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, good start to the season for Stephen Miller, right? Some pretty good success at the SuperKarts USA Winter Series, showed some wet weather prowess, and then able to come out here and grab a win in the second round of the USPKS. What a good way to start the season for the Florida driver.
Yeah, home track, home state advantage for him. So, and got better on the interview side of things as well, too. So, we'll keep working with Miller, and hopefully we'll see him. He actually said he's going to do some USF juniors, I believe, is what he said in the interview.
Yeah, he and I were talking down at St. Petersburg, and I mentioned that he did a good job in that first ever interview, and he was kind of beating on himself. I'm like, listen, man, when you get a camera in your face for the first time, it's tough. So like you said, did a little bit better the second time, which is good. And I thought he did great the first time too. Elio Meza, David, coming back for second spot. Gaffera in third. Parker DeLong fourth, and Max Garcia fifth. You mentioned how some drivers were going to have to use that, one of these races as their drops. It's going to be likely Meza and Gaffera, right? Those are two drivers that didn't get a result in the opening round, but came back for podiums in round number 2. They've got work to do for the remaining 3 events on this year's USPKS schedule.
Yeah, along with Miller, if he decides to continue on as well, too, right. With DNF on Saturday. So that puts Parker DeLong and Max Garcia up front in the championship chase early.
Yeah, you're right. Miller, Meza, and Gaffera both had issues on Saturday. Wow, tough one for both those drivers. Walter Jenkins, the fourth on a rent speed. Red Speed rather, gets a 19 position improvement. He and Reagan Seville, both with the hard chargers. Jenkins from 39th up to 20th, and Seville 40th up to 21st. Seems to me like they may have worked together coming out of the LCQ.
Yeah, you got to love that coming from the LCQ. I think we mention the Austin Olds one as well, too, from Saturday?
We did not. Austin Olds, you're right. Good to bring that up. Austin Olds, 27 spots. Wow, that is massive. Last chance qualifier to get into the show. Austin on the Will Power Kart up to 13th, 27th position from 40th. What a great drive that is.
Yeah, I was giving him some crap about being in the LCQ. Yeah, giving him some business, but he was able to actually make it through without the LCQ on Sunday, so that was fun.
Good for him. That's awesome. Good for Austin. Let's go to X30 Masters now, David. And here's the headline: Ramalho doubles up in dominant performance.
It wasn't a perfect score on the weekend, but it certainly was a dominant performance, especially on Sunday. But to begin with Saturday's action, he qualified really on pole position both days. So that put him on the pole position for the pre-final. But it was Mario Barrios that came through with a pretty quick pre-final session, was able to knife his way up to the front and score the victory. In the main event, however, Barrios slipped down to the third spot, and that allowed Ramalho to go through with the lead, and then Scott Kopp into the second spot. Those two were the guys out front. Kopp tried for a pass on the lead in the last lap, actually got into the lead through the hairpin leading onto the straightaway. Unfortunately, did not run the defensive line into the hairpin at the end of the straightaway. That opened the door for Ramalho to slip through and steal the lead at the end of the long straight, and able to hold on through the final corners to score his first victory at the USBKS program by 0.3 over Scott Kopp. Barrios sit there in third, Scott Roberts in the fourth position, and Robert Mayer in fifth.
Hard charger up 7 spots from 19th position to 12th. Mark Pavin on an Esprit. David, Sunday, it was all Ramalho who had qualified on pole on Friday and won the pre-final and the main event.
Yeah, Contact shuffled up the order at the start behind him, but that did not stop him from laying down a pace that was, I want to say it was almost 0.2 quicker than anybody at the beginning of the race, where Ramalho was just on a rail. Yeah, he ran a 56.0, and everybody else was in the 56.2 or slower. So 0.2 quicker than anybody in those early first half of the race. So he was able to establish a 5.2 second lead by the time the checkered flag waved. So yeah, Contact shuffled up the order behind him. Roberts ended up dropping down to fifth, and Scott Kopp, who was actually disqualified because of weight in qualifying, made his way up through the field to, I think, about fifth in the pre-final, but then got shuffled back down to ninth at the start, along with Barrios getting spun around as well, too. So a little bit of a shuffle allowed Danny Robertson to slide through for the second spot early on, and he was able to hold that to the checkered flag. Scott Roberts bounced back up into the third spot, with Scott Kopp ended up finishing in fourth, with Laurentiu Mardan finishing in fifth.
Yeah, Technokart USA driver grabbing the P5 position. Again, Ramalho, pretty strong weekend. David coming out of the gate, he'll be the point leader. But Scott Kopp, the defending champion, P2 and P4. Roberts, third and fourth? Still a pretty good little scrap lining up here as they head to GoPro.
Well, yeah, this was the only championship that we had in the first 9 years that ended in a tie and had to go down to the tiebreaker with Kopp and Mario Barrios. So if everybody can catch up with Ramalho, and if he does decide to do the full season, it should be a pretty interesting championship as well.
For Sunday, Greg Leahy on a Kart Republic was the hard charger in X30 Masters. 11 spot improvement. Started 21st, ended up in the top 10. All right, folks, a couple more breaks. When we get back after this one, we'll get back into this race report presented by CRG Nordam. We'll give you the cadet categories, Mini Swift and Micro Swift, after this quick break.
Are you ready to go from karts to cars? Since 1975, the Skip Barber Racing School has taken great drivers and made them champions. Today, we're proud to welcome the next generation of winners. Make the transition from karts to cars with the Skip Barber Formula Race Series. You'll compete at the most iconic tracks in America. Race weekends include your very own equalized Formula 4 race car, a professional crew, expert instruction, video and data analysis, hospitality, and more. This is the place to fulfill your dream of becoming a champion. Sign up today by calling 866-932-1949 or visit us at skipbarber.com.
The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history in motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level and track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of race day. Be sure to follow Briggs & Stratton Racing on Facebook and through @RaceBriggs on Instagram. To learn more about the 206 engine or to find the North American dealer near you, head to BriggsRacing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you? Appreciate you hanging in here with us, folks. This edition of the Debrief. Lots more to come still. Mini Swift and Micro Swift before we wrap things up for this edition. Taking a deep dive into the USPKS opener at the Orlando Kart Center, the Southern Grand Prix. David Cole and myself, Rob Howden, giving you the insight. Here is the Mini Swift headline. Parolin sweeps thanks to Della Vecchia and Roberts.
Yeah, Parolin scored the victory, but there was a number of different drivers and a number of different chassis brands that were in contention all weekend long. This was a pretty good category to watch, both on Saturday and Sunday. Della Vecchia was the top qualifier for the Saturday round of action, and when they split up the group into two different pre-finals, actually Oliver Weldon on the LN kart, racing kart, that scored the win in the odd pre-final with Tyler Roberts, the Texan, on the Parolin in the pre-final, even as the winner. The main event actually boiled down to being Della Vecchia and Weldon battling for the lead. As they battled on the last lap, that brought a host of others into the mix, and so it was a good little scrap in the final few corners. As they made their way through that inner left-hand corner leading on to the last straightaway, a little bit of contact spun around Weldon, and that collected Tyler Roberts, so they were unable to continue towards the checkered flag at that moment. That opened the door for Della Vecchia to escape with the lead, and was able to score the victory for his first series victory, as Keelan Harvick came out of that scrap in the second spot with Carson Weinberg in the third position, Asher Osteen on the Tony kart in fourth, and then Sarah Bradley all there in the mix on the Parolin in fifth.
Yeah, Sarah Bradley, very quick throughout the weekend as well. We'll update what happened to her on Sunday. Hard charger, Ethan Tovo on the Nitro kart, started all the way back in 35th position, able to advance 23 spots. He gets into 12th, so a good run for Ethan Tovo. But as you said, Salvador Della Vecchia getting his first USPKS Series win. David, let's move into Sunday. Carson Weinberg qualified on the pole based on his pace in those Friday sessions. Let's have a look at how things shook down in the pre-finals and, of course, the main event.
Yeah, Weinberg actually ended up as the top qualifier for Sunday with Della Vecchia and Weldon each splitting the pre-finals. So they were the drivers on the front row for the main event. Actually ended up being a three-driver fight for the victory, with Weinberg joining Della Vecchia and Weldon there. Weinberg led a majority of the race, but both Della Vecchia and it was Tyler Roberts, not Weldon, that were up front. It was Della Vecchia and Roberts that were able to pass Weinberg on the last lap, and then they decided to race for the top spot through the last corner as well. Ended up being a drag race to the line, with the race ending in a 0.07 of a second split between Tyler Roberts and Salvador Della Vecchia for the race win. Della Vecchia finishing in second, but was penalized, disqualified for, let me get what the official result was, for being too for post-race tech. So not exactly sure what happened in the tech barn, but essentially that took him off the podium. That moved Oliver Weldon into the second spot and moved Asher Osteen into third, as Weinberg was penalized. He actually ended up crossing the line in fifth. He was penalized down to the 12th spot because of blocking on that last lap.
Wow, a lot of action happening. I watched the end of that one, and Roberts got a really good run on Della Vecchia. Della Vecchia was already celebrating coming across the line, and Roberts just able to nip him, as you said, 7 thousandths of a second at the line. Weldon second, Osteen in third, Giammatteo Rousseau fourth, and Kai Johnson finishing in the fifth spot. The hard charger, Lucas Palacio, I believe, started back in 37th. He was able to work his way up into the 17th spot, so a 20 position improvement for Palacio. But David, one of the cool things, obviously, and the video that you had was really, really cool. You were able to get Roberts coming across the scales, making it through the scales, and then you followed him all the way through kind of the paddock area there on the exit of the deal. All the celebrations with the family, mom and dad, everybody congratulated him. That was just a cool opportunity to be part of that experience for Tyler Roberts.
Yeah, that's something that we'll do more of this year. Again, it's the cool aspect of our sport. I think that a lot of people don't see or aren't familiar. There's other teams that come over and congratulate. There's obviously the family, the mechanics, but again, the sport, there's a lot of people that come over and congratulate the actual winner, whether it be, a rival or a fellow or former teammate, or, for Roberts, it was all the Texas guys who were there, giving them a handshake and a high five. But and then the hard charger Palacio, that he came up through the LCQ. Like, I think he started last in the LCQ, made his way up, and was able to get a transfer position and then continue driving forward. He had a good weekend, to recover from that. And then I want to say a top 10 finish on Saturday as well.
Good for him. Let's go to the Micro Swift category. Here's the headline: new USPKS winners with Samet and Simoni. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying Samet correct. Marco Samet. It could be Samut. I'm not sure. It's a new driver to me. It happens all the time in micro when the new drivers come in. I do know Simoni's because I've been covering that family for 25 years, but with his father Anthony. But David, let's just jump in here right now for the drivers in the Micro Swift category. Both Samet and Simoni getting wins.
Yeah, this was another good category too, where we had a number of drivers in the lead pack both days. Saturday began with Kennedy on the pole position, Edward Kennedy on the Kart Republic for the Prix final. He was shuffled back a little bit as Jackson Gibson on the RPG Cosmic was able to come through with a Prix final win. But again, I want to say there were 6 drivers making a great battle up front, with a number of drivers leading. So it was a good mix of good shuffle at the front of the field. Eventually it was Marco Samut who ended up with the lead and was able to come across for the victory. So scoring his first USPKS victory, also scoring the first for the LN Racing Kart at the USPKS program with Mike Doty Racing. So a good win for the Northeast driver.
So is it Samut?
I think it's Samut, but I never was able to confirm or deny that.
Well, if he's going to keep running like this, we're going to have to get it right for these races. So we'll figure that out.
Again, first time we saw him. So that was again, there's a lot of new names in the micro division.
Because on Kart Chaser, they use like about eight or nine different pronunciations. So we'll figure it out. We'll talk to Marco and the family to get it correct moving forward.
Yeah, I would go with Samut for now, and then say it how you spell it, right?
I only say that because I know there's a Samet that races in Canada. It was a kart racer in Canada and raced a bunch of stuff
without an E.
No, where's the E?
I don't know.
E in there. What are you talking about? There was 2 T's.
There you go. That's what I meant to say.
So almost 0.2 of a second.
This is why I don't announce.
The margin for Marco as the race winner. over
Yep.
Benja Fernandez. Jackson Gibson, who was strong in the pre-final, ends up in third. Kai Mars on the Kart Republic in fourth, and Cameron Marsha on the Nitro Kart, rounding out the top five. Nicholas Orbezo on the Tony Kart was the hard charger, 19 spots up, started at the tail of the field in 39th, got himself into the top 20. Let's go to Sunday. And again, that qualifying happening on Friday. Benja Fernandez was the quickest to start the pole position for the pre-final.
Yeah, and then it ended up being Rocco Simoni that was the top driver in the pre-final. It was he and Julian Riviera on the Kart Republic that went back and forth, exchanged the lead multiple times over the main event. Eventually, with 4 laps to go, Simoni secured the top spot, and from there was able to lead the remainder of the race to score his first victory at the USPKS program. So you can add that to the WKA Florida Winter Tour, and didn't pick up a win at the SCUSA Winter Series. Maybe it was Rotax that he also won as well too. Wow. So a number of different wins already for Simoni in 2022.
Good job.
Ashton Woon was able to get up into the second spot late in the race, bringing Troy Ferguson on the Bennick with him. That dropped Riviera down to the 4th spot, with Drew Waltz sitting there in the 5th spot.
Big weekend for Parolin, winning 3 of the 4 cadet main events. Solid for them. Hard charger in the second race. So the Sunday race for Micro Swift was Gavin Decay for Bennick. Good job for Gavin. 15 spots up. Another driver starting deep in the field. 40th, able to drive his way up into 25th. Final break in the action here of this edition of the EKN Debrief, episode number 93. When we get back, we'll wrap things up, talk a little bit about the rough driving in KA 100 Senior. David will walk us through the Constructors Championship, and we'll have a look at the EKN Trackside Live Race calendar to let you know where we're going to be over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll wrap things up, folks, after this break. Established in 1999, PSL Karting has become a powerhouse within the karting industry for North America and around the world. PSL Karting is your complete source for all Burrell Art products as the North American importer, providing this top quality product through both their expansive dealer network or through the PSLkarting.com online store. Whatever you need is available 24/7 online, including safety gear, parts, components, and full karting packages. All 3 brands, Burrell Art, Ricardo Kart, and Charles Leclerc Karts, are in stock and ready to hit the track. Grab your winning chassis for any category by visiting PSLkarting.com to find your nearest dealer. PSL Karting is always looking for interest in new dealers and teams to help create new business relationships. Drivers looking to take their talents to the next level can join the Burrell Art North America race team, competing at all the major U.S. and Canadian events this season. When you're ready to win, go with PSL Karting. Fast, fair, and fun. Ignite Karting offers you all of that at an affordable price. Ignite Karting utilizes the spec Margay Ignite K3 with a Briggs & Stratton 206 engine and the Hoosier R80 tire. Everyone in the junior, senior, and masters classes compete on the same Ignite K3 chassis, which puts all the emphasis squarely on driver development. Additionally, Ignite Karting is accessible at the local, regional, and national level. Special events for 2022 include the Ignite Majors, featuring events at the Daytona International Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Quincy Grand Prix, Newcastle Motorsports Park, and the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. Those in the Midwest can enjoy the 5-round regionally based Ignite Challenge at tracks in Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. Local club programs have also been established in other states like Idaho, Texas, Nebraska, New York, Florida, and more. Join Margay Racing for some fast, fun, and great memories at an Ignite track near you. All information on Ignite events and Ignite Kart packages, including dealers in your area, are available at ignitekarting.com. Get off the couch and onto the track this year. Ignite Karting. Fuel your passion. Welcome back to episode 93 of our EKN Debrief, as we have almost wrapped things up reviewing the opening round of the United States Pro Kart Series program. a massive event, 323 drivers at the Orlando Kart Center, 323 entries, not drivers, but over 300 drivers. Some impressive numbers for sure for this staggering program. David, let's wrap things up. We kind of talked about it a little bit when we were going over the KA 100 senior program. Really, one of the what am I going to say, the trends or the feel coming out of the event, obviously boiling over onto social media like it always does. A lot of people commenting on the rough driving, lack of respect in that particular category.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It wasn't the type of racing you want to see. It was, there's a lot of karts coming in off, smashed up and beat up. Yeah. I don't know what it is. There just seems to be, there's not a lot of respect for the drivers within the KA 100 division that weekend. Again, yeah, there are good drivers in there. A lot of good drivers in there. Some driving a little bit, maybe a little bit more aggressive than they should be. Some drivers, I don't know. It just seems to be that they need to sit there and watch the X30 senior group, see how they drive with respect. They drive hard. They make deep passes, but they know when they need to give a little bit of an inch or decide, hey, this might not be the right opportunity to make the move.
David, here's the thing in my head. What's the mindset, right? What's the mindset coming into these races? Like, where's the disrespect coming from? It's obviously not watching the other races. You mentioned they should watch X30 Pro, super clean racing. What is it? Is it the coaches? Is it parents putting pressure on it?
It's hard. It's hard when they're 18 years old. They're, majority
some of them are 14, 15,
yes,
16.
But the majority of the rough driving was done by those who are able to vote. So,
correct.
That's the hard side of it. I'm not saying all of them were the older ones, but again, when you're looking at the front of the fields, a majority of them, I think, are able to, are above 18. They're their own person. They're not, a majority of them are not kids that were up front. So that's the hard part I see. Terlecki, he's young, Chase Hand's young, but none of them were kind of the instigators, if you want. Terlecki and Fletcher, they raced each other really hard, but they didn't. It wasn't disrespectful.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was just racing. It's part of racing. It wasn't, none of that stuff boiled over. Obviously the Liberante and Lemke one that got on social media already while we were at the race.
Yeah.
And I talked to them separately after Sunday's action. They said they already had talked and things are better, but who's to say nothing's going to happen down the road? That's always the side of things. And again, both of them have jobs. They're adults. They're young adults. So it's not necessarily the kids that are the problem. It's kind of the adults in the room. So that, and again, then that's the problem we see in the junior categories. It's not the kids, it's the adults in the room. That's the problem.
Yeah. So,
and again, we're not racing. The K100 is not racing for money. K100 is racing for a free engine or a free 2023 season or more IAME products or more MG products. So it's not money. So it can't be money that is causing this. So it boils down to drivers not respecting one another.
Yeah, you're right. I hear what you're saying. Let's talk about the venue, Dave. Orlando, the USPKS spent a lot of time at Ocala. It was kind of their launching point for the season, right? In March, getting down into the warm weather of Florida. What are your thoughts? Is Orlando going to be? Is it the new Florida home for the series?
Well, I think that's the question now that the weekend's wrapped up.
Yeah.
Moving forward, is the series happy with how things conducted in Orlando in terms of the smaller paddock size, the chaotic parking side of things, the crampedness of the paddock and the racetrack itself. That's obviously things that they're going to boil, kind of go over and review for the 2023 season. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be the unofficial home for the series opener. That's my question now moving forward. where else would you go? That's kind of the place right now. And that's why we were kind of shocked that they said Orlando, but now, with record numbers, now the goal is, okay, can we match that or we can do better?
Yeah.
Or can they do better because can we get even more carts into the paddock?
That's true. That's 100% true, right? We were worried about 283, 300. They went 323. Right. So yeah, you're right. That's a good point.
I mean, there's obviously ways to do it. You maybe do like Rotax Grand Final style tents, but that's never going to happen here.
Second floor. Somebody's got to come in and build a 2-decker paddock with an elevator.
Yeah, and thankfully, Andre was able to work with businesses around him to provide not only a camping area for the many campers that people bring there, but for parking as well, because we parked in the gravel pit, the actual gravel pit for our parking lot for cars. So that's okay. So now that they have, Orlando understands what needs to happen. USPS understands what they can provide or what they can do or what they need to do to make things a little bit better. Obviously you got probably in the next, 5-6 months to discuss it before, you start sending out next year's calendar. But yeah, it's a question to put up there right now. What is this going to be the new opener location moving forward?
Okay, so the next race down the line, Dave, still a ways away, almost 2 months away, the end of April. They're going to GoPro. Are they going to run the traditional layout, or did you hear any scuttle about something different?
Well, that we know it's not going to be the traditional layout. That was announced when they confirmed going back to GoPro for the April 28th through May 1st weekend. That's confirmed. Any
intel? Were you digging? Did you?
No,
take
that's the problem. Nobody has said anything. They will neither confirm nor deny any of the layouts that are possible. So again, and that's one of the things the teams are asking me. Hey, we need to know what the track layout's going to be so we can start testing. A lot of teams want to get down there and start testing. Is that layout going to be available for testing?
I hear you saying.
So that's kind of for Orlando is the 2023 question. Right now, the question is what the layout's going to be for GoPro. We know what the layout's going to be for Road America. Newcastle, we can pretty much guess it's going to be one or two things, but that's not a big difference. Newcastle's Newcastle.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
GoPro, everybody's used to that national layout that we've been running over and over since the beginning of the series back in 2003. So, is it going to be backwards? Is it going to be a condensed layout? Is it, what's it going to be?
I like it. Now, I have one more question to wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you went to Waffle House, I think, every morning for breakfast.
Once.
Okay, once. On social media, on the USPKS, I think it was Facebook. I saw Mark Coates was working the griddle, making breakfast. How did you not slide by for some bacon or something there?
It was all gone every time I got there.
It's like that griddle was full. It looked good.
No, yeah, they do a good job. Yeah, and happy birthday again to Mark, who celebrated his birthday on Sunday.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yep. So there's a nice cake there. So we got a little cake for lunch. But yeah, Mark does a good job cooking along with Dial, Mrs. Dial, and
awesome.
So they do a lot of cooking for the staff. So I had no idea they were doing breakfast because I got there Saturday early because I had to do some setup stuff. And I realized, oh, you guys make breakfast? Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, I'm in.
That's good. But it was all gone every time I got there. So the staff was certainly hungry every morning.
All right, David, let's go into the Constructors' Championship right now as we get close to wrapping this one here up. 7 different brands scoring 4 of the 14 wins. Give me a rundown of who was able to, which brands at least were able to lock some victories.
Yeah, Cosmic doubled up in X30 Pro, in X30 Master, and I'm trying to think. Actually picked up both wins picked up 2 wins in junior categories. So, excuse me, they were able to pick up 6 total. And as you mentioned just before the break, that Parolin picked up 3 of the 4 cadet wins. Merlin picked up a victory with Brandon Lemke. Tony Kart, Red Speed, Will Power Kart, and the LN Racing Kart all picked up one as well.
All right, folks, let's have a look at the EKN Trackside Live race calendar. We'll let you know where we're going to be over the next, essentially, month. This edition of the race calendar presented by Acceleration Kart Racing. Acceleration Kart Racing has everything you need to go racing, from tires to helmets. They have a great website for you to order from, and kart racers ready to pick up the phone and answer your questions 6 days a week. With over 20 years of kart racing under their belts, Acceleration Kart Racing has the experience to help you succeed on the track. You can rely on them to get the parts you need when you need them. Make Acceleration Kart Racing your go-to source for everything karting. Head to www.shopakr.com. All right, David, you and I talked about the fact that there's only a couple of races we're actually going to be trackside together with, maybe 3 or 4 more for the season, just based on everything that's happening with my schedule and yours. Our next one, we are together. Looking forward to doing a EKN Trackside Live program back on the mic at the Challenge of the Americas, the finale on the March 25th, 26th, 27th weekend. We're heading back out to Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. One of the best views from a track anywhere in the country. And it's a tremendous track as well, just for racing. So many places to pass. Looking forward to wrapping up this year's challenge.
I'm looking forward to seeing the revised section of Tic-Tac-Toe because they did do a little track adjustment. So we'll be doing the normal layout that we're used to when we go there, but with the revised Tic-Tac-Toe. So it's going to be a little bit more, it's probably slow them down a little bit more going into that helicopter pad that is pretty rough and technical for the drivers to go through.
After that, actually the next weekend, I know, David, you'll be heading out on your vacation, taking the family away for a little bit. I'll be trackside at the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Winter Nationals, opening round of the Pro Tour. Alicia will be helping me out with social media that weekend. April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We'll be at NOLA Motorsports in Avondale, Louisiana, another tremendous racetrack with so many passing opportunities. Love being there at the Winter Nationals. Of course, a couple of years ago, David, that's where COVID hit. Everything kind of shut down. I'll be back on with Xander Clemens and the crew at Kart Chaser, as they're going to be streaming live video for the Pro Tour this year, and I'll be the lead commentator for that. Looking forward to it. Be lots of social media. I'll be handling all the play-by-play, the Paddock Insider. Alicia will take care of the top 10s on social, and of course all the race reports as well. SCUSA Pro Tour about ready to fire things up for what season's this now for the Pro Tour? Man, where are we? 12?
This will be 13, yeah.
13 for the Pro Tour. All started back in 2010. So, yeah, you'll be off on holiday, and I'll be rocking that one. Should be fun.
I have not been there since COVID. So, yeah, I missed last year because it was the same weekend as the Challenge of the Americas finale. So, I didn't get to go last year. And, yeah,
next year.
But right now, this weekend, hosting the SimCraft 24 Hours of NOLA.
That's right.
So Briggs & Stratton Racers going to go twice around the clock this weekend there. So that's going to be their first big race of the 2022 season at NOLA Motorsports Park. So a lot of drivers and teams heading down there right now. I saw on social media, including the Bermuda team heading over from Bermuda to go compete as well. So, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Unfortunately, we'd like to be there, but busy schedules have to pick and choose.
That's exactly that. Exactly. And I'm super happy they were able to get that race in the books. I know that they struggled a little bit with entries and some people pulling out, and they were able to reset the bar. TJ Hull's been doing a great job to get that event in, because again, this is an event that's good. Yeah, it's going to become a big part of our sport here. It's kind of like that Granja 500 race they have in Brazil. We need a big race like that, that big 24-hour endurance race. More and more people are going to try it. There's just so much racing going on right now, but I really believe it's going to be a cornerstone event for our sport for decades to come.
Yeah, that's it. There's a lot of racing going on. We just had Cup Karts North America have their big spring nationals in Charlotte last weekend, so that kind of hurts on trying to be part of the 24-hour. And also the 24-hour is still kind of recovering from COVID, because it had to be rescheduled so many different times because of changes in motorsports, not just karting, but motorsports in general, because they do have a lot of supporters with them within the motorsports industry. So, glad to see that one kick off. And hopefully for 2023, it can find a good date home that works with everything and then works with our schedule, and we can be part of that, and we can sleep trackside trying to go 24 hours.
Exactly that. We keep having it on the bucket list that we want to be part of that Simcross 24, and I'm hoping it'll happen.
I just want to try and see how far physically I can go in 24 hours. You know what I mean?
The same way. Yeah. What a challenge.
I'm no Trey Shannon. No way am I going to do that by myself.
No kidding. Well, folks, that wraps up this edition of the EKN Debrief. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Kudos to everybody from the USPKS for a tremendous start to the 2022 season. Those of you who dropped us messages for David's coverage, we do appreciate it. Paddock Insider and both of the race reports, of course, available on the website. We sent out an EKN News Desk email blast available there if you haven't seen them as well. And again, this particular podcast will be run on the EKN Radio Network. And then, as always, will find its way to the EKN podcast program as well. Again, big thank you to our sponsor of this particular edition of the EKN Debrief, Step It Up. We love to have these guys taking care of us. Franklin Motorsports, longtime sponsor of EKN and one of our valued advertising partners. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. On behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.